Engineer Suleiman Adamu, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's discuss one area that has been a primary source of concern right now, Lake Chad Basin. You're the chairman of the Council of Ministers of Lake Chad Basin Commission, and you said about 1.84 trillion naira is required to recover the basin's areas affected by Boko Haram crisis. Can you give us details of this?
Well, there is a lot, as far as the Northeast and the Boko Haram crisis is concerned. We need money for IDPs. We need money for communities that have gone back that have left IDPs and gone back to their villages. We also need to sustain the lives and create climate resilience and adaptation action plans. Getting schools back, teaching them new methods of agriculture, so that sustainable ones, so that they don't have to spend too much on water, with the water conservation. The ecology itself, the environment itself, all the ecological disasters that have taken place that need to be revamped. So those are some of the issues. But the big one, of course, is the problem that what is going to happen to this lake in the next 20, 30 years. This lake was 25,000 square kilometers 55, 60 years ago. And now it's 2,500 or less. Sometimes it hovers a little bit more, but a substantial part of the lake has dried up. In fact, in Nigeria, there's hardly any portion within the Nigerian boundary that has water at the moment. So it's a critical situation. How
deep in trouble are we? We've been talking about this for several years now, and the situation is deteriorating.
Well, the trouble you can see is glaring at you. The bombings and the insurgency by Boko Haram, that's the big trouble.
And we don't have a way out yet.
No, we have military solution. We have other strategies. We recently had developed a strategy for helping the people, what they call peace strategy. So, there are quite a number of things, and the international community is supporting it. It's easier to destroy than to rebuild. So it's going to take some time to do that. But ultimately, we feel that opportunities have been lost by a huge population. This lake sustains the lives of over 40 million people over a certain radius. And if this lake should dry up, then the problem is going to be even more serious. The issue of Fulani farmers clashes, immigration, north, south, east, and west. If there is no water, people will move out.
That's exactly why I asked how deep in trouble, because if we see less than 5 right now, it oscillates between 2.5 and 3.5 or thereabout. And then we don't even know if maybe in the next 1 year, if appropriate measures are not put in place, rather drastically, we might see something worse.
Unfortunately, as far as water resources are concerned, you don't have to put a solution in 1 year. A solution takes decades to put in place, and that's the truth of the matter.
Are you getting support from other countries?
Oh, definitely. The biggest solution, the best solution we think we can have is to have the interbasin water transfer from the Congo Basin. And we have been doing a lot of work on that. President Buhari has been doing a lot of advocacy on that internationally. We have been doing quite a lot here in the ministry and along with Lake Chad Basin Commission. We had a conference, an international conference last year, a very successful one. We had an Abuja declaration.
But beyond the talks?
Well, we are working. We still need to do a lot of advocacy, but we now have additional funding from the Italian government.
How much are we talking about?
About 1.5 million euro. But that's just to update the feasibility study. It is when we have done that, they will be able to now say, okay, this is the best option, this is the best route to take, and then we need to develop it further. Look, it's a huge engineering endeavor, and it's going to take years to plan. It's going to require a lot of hydro diplomacy. We have to talk a lot with the people of the Congo Basin. It doesn't happen overnight. The Chinese recently they've been working. They've succeeded in bringing about 4,500 kilometers of canals, bringing water from South China into North China. From the conception to the reality on ground now, it took them 50 years. So we started in 2002, and we're still in progress.
So how much is this, the River Basin Development Authorities, how much is this repositioning going to contribute to agriculture sector, for instance?
A lot, because we don't even have a choice. We have to bring back the River Basin Development Authorities, because the cardinal principle of this administration is diversifying the economy from dependence on oil into agriculture. So we have to key in, and we understand that very much. We have launched a new irrigation development program. Right now we have 130,000 hectares of formal irrigation, which are owned by the federal government. We want to increase it by another 100,000 hectares by 2020, and we hope that by 2030 we'll have 500,000 hectares developed by the federal government alone. And we want to still encourage the states to do what they can.
Spread across which states?
Well, wherever irrigation is possible. We have irrigation in Cross River, it's critical in the Sahel region, where we don't have too much rainfall, like, the northern axis of the Sahelian region. But we also have a lot of capacity in the middle belt and also in Cross River, where you have a lot of rice production and so on. So that we must, to support the government policy on agriculture, we must be able to produce food all year round, and you have to do that with irrigation. Then we're also working towards commercializing the river basins. Already now there's a transaction advisor working. We're working with the Bureau for Public Enterprise, looking at the situation in about 4 river basin development authorities as a model. We want a situation whereby they can stand on their own. First we'll start with partial commercialization, and in future we want to have full commercialization, so that for their operations and some of the key things they do not require to be dependent on budgetary allocations all the time.
Good. Rather quickly in our concluding moments, talk about the Transforming Irrigation Management in Nigeria project.
Okay, that's a World Bank project. It's World Bank supported project. It's our project, but funded by the World Bank and Nigerian government. World Bank is funding with $495 million. It's supposed to bring in close to 50,000 hectares of irrigation. Some of it was existing, but due to lack of maintenance and so on, the system had collapsed. For instance, in Kano River Irrigation Project, 1/3 of the facility was not working, 5,000 hectares. So the aim is to restore 5,000 hectares plus, and then increase another 3,000 hectares, making 8,000. The project is spreads across Goronyo Dam in Sokoto State, Bakolori Dam in Zamfara, which is the Bakolori Irrigation Project Scheme, which is supposed to bring in, I think, another 13,000 hectares. Then, of course, the Kano River Irrigation Project, to take it from what it is now, 15 plus 3, maybe about 18,000 hectares. And then the Hadija Valley Irrigation Project. This project was started since the Shagari regime, and it's still not finished.
So we haven't maximized the benefits.
Oh yes. So now we have funding, and we're going to complete it. We are going to put, we have 3,000 hectares. We increased another 3,000 hectares to 6,000. And then Dadinkowa Dam has been built. It's been lying fallow for a long time. Also, the studies have been completed. And this is just the first phase. So once we have successfully done this trimming, phase 1, we hope also to expand it. We have Guyuk in Adama, and then there's 1.8 million hectares of potential irrigable land between the Niger and Benue basins that is untapped. And we want to tap into that. Already, as part of our irrigation and national irrigation program, we are making available up to 1 million hectares of land for irrigation. We are trying to entice the private sector to come and take up this land and develop it.
So that's short term, right?
Well, it's not short term. We know the roadmap that I have for this ministry is a 15-year roadmap, taking it to 2030. So I think it's a short, medium, and long, relatively long term.
Thank you very much for coming on the program, Engineer Sri.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us. We'd like to hear from residents of the nation's capital about the security situation in your area. Feel free to send pictures, views and comments using the email address and Twitter handle on your screen. Also, be sure to share anything happening within your locality. You may watch any episode of the program on YouTube. Thank you for watching this week. I'm Gloria Umezuki. See you again.